name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Amen.
Amen. The story that takes place one early Arizona morning where 4 elderly ranchers were enjoying an early morning breakfast in a local cafe. Now, these fellows were discussing everything from cattle, horses, and weather to how things used to be in the good old days. Eventually, the conversation moved on to their spouses. One gentleman turned to the fellow on his right and said, "Roy, aren't you and your bride celebrating your 50th anniversary soon?" "Yep, we sure are," Roy replied. "Well, are you going to do anything special to celebrate?" another man asked. The old gentleman pondered this for a moment, then he replied, "For our 25th anniversary, I took the missus to Tucson. Maybe for our 50th, I'll go down there and get her back." Well, I hope more marriages and anniversaries have a little more romance than that involved in them. Today's gospel lesson sets forth a very unique and important event in the ministry of Jesus Christ. So important, as a matter of fact, that even in the prayer book, that event is mentioned in the form for the solemnization of matrimony on page 300 in the prayer book. It reads that man and woman joined in holy matrimony, which is an honorable estate instituted of God, signifying us into this mystical union that is between Christ and his church, which holy estate Christ adorned and beautified with his presence and first miracle that he wrought in Cana of Galilee. And the last couple of weeks we've talked about several events that occurred in the life of Jesus. We talked about the obvious manifestation of Jesus to the Gentiles when the wise men appeared and became the first non-Jewish sorts to worship him. We saw Jesus at the temple as a young man. We talked about John the Baptist and those who might have been present to witness his baptism. But today we're traveling north to Galilee, and he has made no sign yet that he is anyone special. No miracles, no healings. And so they go to a wedding in Cana, which is about 8 miles from Nazareth, and must be family friends of Jesus since his mother, Mary, is there. Now, please understand that weddings in that day and time were huge events, week-long happenings that included much feasting and drinking and dancing, and new guests would be coming and going all the time. And this was a big social event with lots of people as guests, and it was a real time of celebration. And we must assume that this particular event now takes place near the end of the week since they're running out of wine. Now, this would, of course, be a terrible embarrassment to the family, and so Mary tells Jesus to do something. You know how mothers are. At this point, the scene takes on some very human characteristics, a real true to form mother-son exchange. Mary says, "They have no more wine, Jesus, do something." You know you can do it. You have to think of our friends, and after all, they would be so embarrassed, but Jesus says, "No, this is not his time, it hasn't come yet. I'm not going to be messing with the wine." But like true mothers and sons everywhere, she ignores him and calls the servants over anyway and tells them to do whatever he says. Who knows why Jesus relented? It seems that his time has come, and it's been thrust upon him in a rather unusual way. And it appears that God intervenes because Jesus' true time has come after all. I mean, the story is well known. Jesus asked the servants to fill up 6 water pots with water, and he then instructs the servants to begin pouring wine. And the governor of this feast, in this particular case, was someone who was probably the master of ceremonies, was so impressed with the quality of the wine that he began to compliment the bridegroom on his excellent choice of wine. The first miracle, St. John tells us, manifested forth his glory. And that's very important. His disciples believed on him. And this rather strange event seems to be a turning point for the disciples. Why? Why has this miracle at last proved to them what Jesus had been attempting to convince them of sometime? Have they entered now into some form of blind faith? So that brings us up to several points that I want to mention briefly this morning. First of all, is faith a matter of blind trust? Gordon Spears, his wife Jackie, suffers from MCS, which means she's allergic to most everything in the world. Describes blind trust this way. He said, blind trust is like a horse in a burning building. First, you have to cover the horse's eyes before you can lead him out. Sometimes God doesn't explain what's happening to us or where he's leading us. And when he does this, we are to blindly trust that he knows what he's doing. If he were to explain it to us, it might scare us just like the fire would scare the horses, and we might not follow his sure thing. You know, unfortunately, in today's world, faith has been mistreated and misused oftentimes. Faith has come to mean believing in something for which there is no evidence, or a blind belief, even believing in something which is impractical or irrational. Paul in Hebrews 11:1 gives us some very sound advice about faith. Paul says, now, faith is the substance of those things hoped for. And underline this, the evidence of things not seen. This verse clearly states that faith is the evidence of things not seen. And while the word faith, when used in the everyday language, might mean believing in something which there is no evidence, this is not necessarily an accurate definition of what the word faith means within the Bible. The Bible consistently teaches us that biblical faith is a belief and trust in God founded on evidence. We can't always see the things which we believe in, but we can be confident that those things are there. I suppose the simplest example of that might be the wind. We can't see the wind. We know it's there because there's evidence for its existence. So this now brings me to the second point I want to talk a little bit about. What is the foundation of your faith? Jesus, in today's gospel from John, did this first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and underlined and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. You see, Jesus performed this miracle to reveal his glory. And of course, his disciples at last, they saw what Jesus was doing, and so they believed him. He performed this miracle to reveal his glory. And the wonder and delight of this miracle is not the elemental transformation of water into wine so much. That's impressive, to be sure. But the wonder of this story is that through this miracle, we witness the revelation of God's abundant grace and the faith that grace solicits on those who truly believe. I want you to understand this. The wonder of this story is that through this miracle, we witness the revelation of God's abundant grace and the faith that grace solicits in those who believe. Christian faith is not blind, and it does not find its sure foundation in unexplainable things. We certainly do not understand all of the holy mysteries, nor are we intended to. But real Christian faith is rooted in the abundance of grace poured out onto us in this life, death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. There's a story about C.S. Lewis, one of my most favorite authors. During a British conference on comparative religion, experts from around the world debated what, if any, belief was unique to the Christian faith. And so they began eliminating possibilities. Incarnation, other religions had different versions of God's appearing in human form. Resurrection, again, other religions had accounts of return from death. So this debate went on for a while until C.S. Lewis wandered into the room. "What's the argument about?" he asked. He heard him reply that his colleagues were discussing Christianity's unique contribution among world religions. Lewis immediately responded, "Oh, that's easy. That's easy to explain. It's grace." And after some discussion, the conferees had to agree. The notion of God's love coming to us free of charge, no strings attached, seems to go against every instinct of humanity. Only Christianity dares to make God's love unconditional. The disciples who knew intimately the power behind Jesus' miracle of grace can only respond to what they witness in one way, and we call that response faith. They experience the abundance of God's grace in Jesus, and John's gospel tells us they believed in him. When we come to this altar each week, we celebrate the service of Holy Communion, and what we celebrate is the miracle of grace that has been poured upon us by a loving God through Jesus' death and resurrection. When we receive these gifts of bread and wine, it becomes for us an opportunity to put behind us all of the bad, negative, hurtful things that have taken place in our lives, and to refill our soul with God's powerful, unconditional, and forgiving love. And when we are able to do that, our faith takes on a new and deeper meaning. You see, it's the grace of God that is the sure foundation of faith. Once we unlock the doubt of fear or guilt or whatever it is that holds us in bondage, then and only then are we able to believe in the way that Paul describes. Faith is not always easy, but the more we are convinced we are of the reality of God's grace, the more our trust will grow, and our doubts and temptations will be less overwhelming. Thanks be to God that he bestows that grace upon us. Grace, the continuing miracle, the everlasting miracle, the sure foundation of faith. Asked if she knew that she was in God's grace, Joan of Arc replied to her accusers, "If I am not, may it please God to put me in it. If I am, may it please God to keep me there." Amen. Remember,